Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As always, I'm your girl, Candy Washington. So, before we dive into today's episode, which is Kyle Richards admitting that she wants her man back, my man, calling Mauricio Umansky, come and get your girl. So, before we dive in, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. So, this is according to People magazine, and this is also something I've been saying forever. I don't think that Kyle ever wanted to separate or divorce from Mauricio. I've been saying from jump, Kyle got into a moment of crisis in her life. I think it was like a midlife crisis, you know, coupled with her best friend, Lorene, taking her own life, that big jarring thing. I mean, I can't imagine having that happen to you. And then also on top of that, dealing with, falling out with her sister and everything else. Now, I'm not saying Kyle is perfect, but she is a human. And so I do think that she basically just broke and she was expecting her husband to step up. I think that her and Mauricio probably have been sort of in a rut where he does his thing and she is just there to support him. She said she felt like she was taken for granted, that he, wasn't really stepping up. And we saw in the last episode her saying to her life coach therapist, I was surprised he didn't fight for me. Whether he didn't want to fight for me or if he didn't know how to fight for me, he didn't. And I think that her acting out was all attention seeking behavior, getting really in shape, over exercising, not drinking, getting tattoos, pretending to be a lesbian, having an attitude, snapping at him, snapping at his mom, just snapping in general and just being, quite quite abrasive. All of that to me just seemed like a teenager, lashing out and being immature and trying to get their parents' attention. So that just seemed to me it was a lot of attention seeking behavior because she was in crisis. And even though it seems like she's pushing him away, what she's really doing is testing him to see if he's going to fight for her. It's like when you're in a fight with your man and you're like, you better not talk to me, you better not call me, which really means you better blow up my phone, you better be texting me, you better be begging for me back, you know? And I think that's kind of what Kyle was doing. And Mauricio either didn't get the memo, wasn't emotionally available, didn't care. Who knows? But I don't think that she really wanted to separate or divorce. I think she just wanted a better marriage. And now that I think she's in a better place emotionally, mentally, physically, she's got some clarity. She's like, okay, I blew up my life, I blew up my marriage, but I want my husband back. So this is according to People magazine. Let's dive in a little bit more. It says Kyle Richards is holding on to hope that that Umansky will come back home. On the February 25th episode of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, the reality star admitted she was struggling to move on from her estranged husband despite the fact he was dating other people amid their ongoing separation. He goes and lives his life and he's having fun, and I've kind of just been working, Kyle confessed in a sit down with her therapist. And I know that's what it's like being separated is supposed to be like, taking this time to figure out everything. With her family and friends constantly asking if the two will eventually pull the trigger on divorce. The Bravo celebrity revealed that she's been feeling anxious and impatient because I want to know what my life is going to be. So basically, it seems like at this point, she's waiting for Mauricio to make a choice. She said that he told her, I know that this is a risk, me doing me, you doing you, it's a risk. Let's see, you go and date people, I'll date people, let's see if we come back together. I personally don't think that they will get divorced. I think they will ultimately come back together, but he's going to take his hall pass. I think this is a hall pass for him. I think Mauricio was also going through his own midlife crisis. He's working out like crazy. He's hanging out with 20-year-olds. He's doing the most on the gram, like kind of cringe, to be honest with you. He's partying in the club, PK, really kind of creepy old guy in the club. You know what I mean? So I do think that he's also going through his own form of midlife crisis, and he wants the hall pass. He wants to sow his wild oats. He wants to be photographed with 20-year-olds and 30-something years old when he's, pushing 60. He wants to do the damn thing, okay? And he wants to be able to sort of rub it in Kyle's face the way that she rubbed Morgan in his face. And, he wants to be able to do his thing. He wants his cake and he wants to eat it too. Keep her in limbo, go do his own thing. And then when he's done doing that, I think he's going to go back to Kyle. And I think Kyle will be okay with that. That's just what it seems like. Anyway, when her therapist asked why she wasn't living out her best life, like Mauricio, Kyle couldn't help but admit she was afraid of what would happen if the real estate mogul one day changed his mind. I guess it's just a little part of me that thinks, okay, so if I move on with somebody new, and then what if he's like, okay, I went and sowed my wild oats, and she trolled off before her therapist asked, I want to come back. In a conversation with cameras, Kyle shared how painful the idea of divorce was, adding that she's never wanted to be a single mom and feel stressed or afraid like her mother was. I was always so proud that I had been married so long because I didn't have a good role model growing up in that aspect. I was very proud of that, she explained. I was like, this is my biggest accomplishment. And that's kind of sad if like she thinks her marriage is her biggest accomplishment, where, like Kyle or not, she has done a lot. She's been an actress, she's a reality TV star, she's, done businesses and she's executive produced shows and everything. I'm not going to knock the hustle. I think Kyle should be proud of herself. She's raised 4 children, so I think there's a lot for her to, and she's just herself. I think we as people, but particularly as women, we are worthy and enough simply because we exist, because we are, not because we're super moms or super wives or super boss babes. All of that is great, but whatever. We need to find worth in our own humanity, our own selves. Whether you're a boss babe, whether you're a wife, whether you're a mom, doesn't matter. You are here, you are worthy, and you are enough. Okay. So, yeah, okay. But when it comes to Mauricio, Kyle recalled how he once told her he was afraid he couldn't be on his own while discussing their separation. He said, I wanted to know. I was afraid I couldn't be on my own, but I know I can now, she said through tears. He didn't even say, like, I was scared I couldn't be without you. He said, I was scared I couldn't be on my own, but I can. Well, this is the thing. To be fair, both Kyle and Mauricio were extremely young when they got married. I feel like they're early 20s. Sorry about that little break. Okay. Yeah. So to be fair, Kyle and Mauricio both were super young when they got married. And and honestly, to be fair, Kyle is 20, not 22. She's 2 years older than Mauricio. So he was even younger than her when they got married. And so I think it's a disservice almost when you get married that young. You don't know if you can be on your own. You do form very codependent relationships. You get married in your early 20s and then you're married for like, they just celebrated their 29th anniversary. I know they're separated, but it would have been their 29th anniversary. That's almost 30 years. That's basically your entire adult life. Actually, that is your entire adult life. Your early 20s, we're still babies. And so I think that what he was saying was, as his own man, as his own individual person, he was unsure if he could be on his own. And that's what happens when we get in crisis, when we go through trauma, when we go through transformation and reinvention and discovery and healing. We start to ask those questions. Who am I? Why am I? What do I want? What is my purpose? Can I be on my own? What does that look like? What does that feel like? Especially if he's going through this midlife crisis. And I think that Kyle probably had those same questions herself, if she's being honest. Can I be on my own? What does that look like? Can I be on my own? What does that look like? How does that feel? She's also never not been a mom. She's never not been a wife. She went from being a child to a mother, from a child to a wife. And I think that when you miss out, and shout out to Wendy Williams, because she would always say, a woman should live on her own. She should have her own. She should be herself and step into that womanhood. When you don't have that time to develop your sense of self as yourself, you really miss out. And now both of them are facing their 60s. In a couple years, they'll be 60 years old, never having been just them. So I get where she's coming from, but I also understand what he was saying. And I applaud the therapist, because the therapist was like, well, we don't know that's all he's saying. That's just a part of what he said. And I do think that there is still hope for Kyle and Mauricio to come together. I don't really see them ever getting divorced. That's just me. Who knows? I didn't see them separating, so I don't know. But I want to know what you guys think about this. What do you think about Kyle being more transparent, being more honest, being more raw about where she is, where Mauricio is, really sort of showing the inner workings of their marriage, which we know in the past she hasn't done. What do you think about Mauricio dipping it and doing it? And what do you think about her kind of being like, I thought he would fight for me and he didn't. And I sort of feel in limbo because I want him to come back. So I'm scared to move forward. So she feels a little bit stuck. My advice, Kyle, go dip it and do it, but stop with this Morgan BS. Like, are they not? Can't say her name, blah, 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 blah. That to me is tired and stale. I'm started talking about that. Let Morgan go. Let the mouse go, okay? I want Kyle to find somebody new, whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, whatever the case may be, where she can just be 100%, all the way funky with it, whatever the deal is, dating and having fun and being shot by the paparazzi, but being honest and being transparent. If I was Kyle, I would continue to not drink. I would continue to work on my mental health. I would continue to work on my physical health, the working out and doing all of that, going to therapy and living my best life by dating other people out loud in the open. And if Mauricio comes back, great. And if he doesn't, whatever, you're busy living your life. That's what I would do. So I want to know what you guys think. So as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Bye.